I have felt for a very long time that it's been the suppression of the Western market that has enabled the large central banks to reposition using the leverage, the suppressed leverage of the West against us. In other words, they're using the manipulated price to accumulate massive amounts of gold and silver. You have these commercial banks with, literally millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of short positions in gold and silver, meaning they're selling, driving the price down. Banks can short the price and they'll drive the price down, and then they can cover those shorts at a later date at a lower price. That's the anticipation when you sell short. When you go long, you anticipate the price going much higher.
The suppression of the Western market has enabled major central banks to manipulate and amass substantial amounts of gold and silver. According to Dion Rabouin at Axios, there's been an unprecedented shift towards gold led by global financial authorities, seemingly distancing themselves from the U.S. dollar. The World Gold Council stated that central banks purchased a record-breaking 374.1 tons of gold this year. Although this purchase represents just 16% of total gold demand, it provides insight into the mindsets of central bankers. Schectman views this as a strategic move by powerful entities to exploit manipulated prices from Western market suppression. He suggests that these actions coincide with increased physical metal deliveries outside established market systems, potentially leading to a crisis due to overleveraging and rehypothecation. Many argue that central banks possess both motives and means to manipulate gold prices, citing sudden, unexplained market shifts or peculiar timings of gold sales by these banks. In cases where commercial banks hold substantial short positions in gold, a rapid surge in gold prices could result in significant losses for these banks. While this tactic is common in financial markets, its impact is particularly pronounced in commodities like precious metals due to their rarity and inherent value. Andy highlights that this short-selling practice, predominantly used by major financial institutions, allows them to drive down gold and silver market prices artificially. He examines how, during price surges, those with short positions rush to buy back the metal, causing more price increases, a short squeeze. This can quickly drain resources, forcing participants out and causing financial instability. Furthermore, during a rapid price surge, market dynamics involve those with short positions rushing to cover them by buying back the metal, further escalating prices. This phenomenon, termed a short squeeze, can swiftly exhaust resources and push market participants out of their positions, potentially resulting in financial turmoil. We will present clips from Andy Schectman's interview with Bo Polney. But before we do, if you want more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for more updates. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Well, one of the things that I think is fair to say is that this wild volatility that we're seeing, largely in silver but also in gold, is a sign that the market is trying to break free from the shackles of its suppression. We've seen a shift. Now you see the commercial banks, which are typically the ones that are on the right side of the trade, move to the long side, as the managed money were the ones that were selling, driving the price down. I think this is a situation where all the stars are lining up perfectly as far as I'm concerned. And when you look at the amount of central bank buying that we've seen this year, which is exceeding just about any time in history, you look at the central banks, they bought more gold over the last 2 years than any time in history, and that is continuing. Same thing with silver. We just got numbers that, as an example, that India bought 60 million ounces of silver in October and another 20 million ounces in November, on top of 304 million ounces in 2022. And these stars are all lining up perfectly. You see massive central bank buying at the same time that they're selling and not rolling over their treasuries. There is a shift being made by the most powerful people in the world, coinciding with these events. And I have felt for a very long time that it's been the suppression of the Western market that has enabled the large central banks to reposition using the leverage, the suppressed leverage of the West against us. In other words, they're using the manipulated price to accumulate massive amounts of gold and silver. So when you talk about the COMEX, the price setting mechanism of the West has created distortions. in commodity prices, and in particular in gold and silver, which the West had vested interests, whatever they may be, in keeping low. And so I think what you are basically witnessing is a unraveling of this, because what they didn't count on was, and maybe again, this falls in line with what has been written, right? And the fact that there are no coincidences. What we are witnessing is, I don't know if they ever counted on the fact that you have sovereign nations who many years ago didn't have the ability to do these things, whether it be financially or even in terms of their wherewithal politically, and how it all intertwines globally in terms of safety and numbers and size of military and all of these things. They're standing for delivery. And you're seeing huge deliveries leaving these ecosystems and leaving the system altogether. And so now you have a system that is very over leveraged and very rehypothecated. And when it breaks, it will be something to behold. These commercial banks with, literally millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of short positions in gold and silver, meaning they're selling, driving the price down. When you short something, you do it with the anticipation and the duty to pay it back, but you are anticipating paying it back at a lower price. So these big banks can short the price and they'll drive the price down, and then they can cover those shorts at a later date at a lower price. That's the anticipation when you sell short. When you go long, you anticipate the price going much higher. So in other words, you have all of these banks that are naked shorting. They're selling short into the market metal that they do not have, and they anticipate really never having to deliver it, but to cash settle. Well, if all of a sudden the price starts to go much, much higher, you have to get this metal somehow in order to put it back into the system or cash settle it. But the point is that as the price goes higher and higher and higher and higher, it forces people into the market. Now, if you say, I want to stand for delivery, where are you going to get that metal when no one wants to sell it as the price is spiking? And you have to go outside the system to find it, or wherever you're going to find it, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. It can bankrupt you like that. And that's actually what bankrupted Bear Stearns in 2008. And that was admitted by the former CFTC commissioner, Bart Chilton, who admitted it on a podcast with Chris Marcus and then died a few days later. Coincidence? Not sure, but it was the only time he ever admitted the whole story about JP Morgan and their role in taking over Bear Stearns' short position. But the point is they were massively short on silver, and it went from $12 to $21. It put them out of business. They couldn't cover it, and bang, they went out of business because of that leverage. So when the price starts to move against you very, very quickly, you have to come up with that product or cover it with cash if you're lucky enough. But it can move up so fast that it can, in very, very short period of time, as everyone's covering, which means buying it, really, in essence, is what it means. You're buying the metal back to make your position whole. That act of buying and buying and buying and buying and buying on top of other people who are buying, it'll jack the price up so fast that those short positions get squeezed and very quickly can run out of money and out of business.
BRICS Ambassador Anil Suklal has announced that an additional 20 countries, alongside the 6 new members proposed earlier this year, have applied to join the BRICS group. While discussing South Africa's current presidency of the BRICS, he noted in late November, over 20 countries have formally applied to join BRICS, with the same number expressing interest. This affirms BRICS' pivotal role in advocating for emerging and developing economies. Respective foreign ministers will handle numerous interested parties. These nations possess significant natural resources, including Venezuela, home to the largest known physical oil deposits globally. Although their impact might seem restricted, collectively, they represent a substantial portion of humanity, GDP, and military might. Andy views this collaboration in cryptocurrency terms as a collective effort by nations seeking safety in numbers to challenge Western hegemony. These nations, uniting with neighboring countries, display unity and courage in opposing the West. Highlighting a potential turning point, Andy suggests that if Saudi Arabia and OPEC cease using the dollar for oil trades, it could trigger a dollar collapse. Regardless of ongoing events, the alignment of market patterns and predictions signals to Andy the potential for severe consequences for the U.S. dollar in the first quarter of the following year. Let's get back to the interview.
20 countries have formally applied. to the BRICS. Another 20 have informally applied. Every single one of the 20 that have applied are very resource rich, including Venezuela, who has the largest known physical deposits of oil in the world. And, in and of themselves, not so much. Add them little by little by little, and more, you get mass adoption in cryptocurrency speak. You get a large enough mass of humanity, of GDP and of military might, where it's not something like you said, you can't go and attack the world. And all of these countries are joining with their neighbors. They have regional influence. And so you're finding safety in numbers where countries can do these things now that never would have had the nerve to stand up to against the West. And, so it's a big, big, big deal, in my opinion. And I've always said that the moment where it gets very real is when Saudi Arabia and all of OPEC says, listen, you guys sign an executive order to go green. We appreciate that. Thanks for the memories. We're no longer taking dollars for oil. And bang, that's when the dollar has that collapse moment. Now, it's a good segue. I'm going to give you props. In what you sent me, your chart shows a dollar topping almost to the day when the Fed made this announcement that they've defeated inflation, which is a bunch of baloney. What they really said is we've given up on fighting inflation. We've chosen inflation over austerity, the way that all governments have. Your chart shows a drop. Well, the dollar fell from 103 to just under 101. That's a big drop. And, it's following perfectly. So, again, I don't care what the events are. I can just simply say that right now, your charts are spot on in both gold and the dollar. And so I guess it remains to be seen what happens here into the end of the year. But the table is set. You can see this formation of countries that is pushing back against the hegemony of the West, and doing so in a successful manner and an accelerating manner. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting time moving forward. If you see the price of metal move to that degree, yes, the amount of short contracts that are out there will be enough to put companies out of business. I mean, it's that substantial. Now, who knows if that happens in terms of this massive squeeze on COMEX or not, but I will tell you that the table is set for that to happen. I would argue that maybe the dollar is down for a lot longer than that. We just got news, and this comes directly from the Congressional Budget Office, a branch of the United States government, and they said that by 2031, 7 years away, that 100% of the revenue they take in from income tax will go just to pay the interest on the debt and mandatory entitlements like Social Security, which is already 70 trillion in the hole. And a trillion seconds ago, as we said last time, is 31,688 years ago. So think about this for a moment when you talk about dollar strength and how much of a crossroads we are really at, or a Rubicon, right? How is it even possible that the United States could intend to be the dominant economic and military superpower if in 7 years, by their own admission, and they're usually way off, it's probably more like 3 or 4 years, that everything, all the discretionary items of the budget, including the military, would have to be borrowed. So, how is it that we're going to have the strongest military in the world when we're reliant on the rest of the world to lend us money to build that military, to go and be coercive and to maintain this hegemony that everyone's pushing back against? And the answer, as far as I'm concerned, is there's not a snowball's chance in Haiti. I just can't see it happening. So I think your charts are if anything, this could be much more severe to the upside in metals, to the downside in the dollar, and to the markets. And what makes it that much worse, there are two things that make it that much worse. One, there's massive rallying of countries that are amounting to the majority of human population rallying against us. This is the rallying cry. But there's another thing too, and thank God for people like you who are out there, signaling the alarm. But I think things are changing so rapidly in this country, around the world, that people in this country are not prepared for what's coming, because the media does not give us any flavor of what's happening outside this country. And everyone sees what's happening inside the country with the lack of unity and the divisiveness and the lawlessness and all of this stuff, but they don't see what's happening. And I think everyone out there who are coalescing, they see what's happening here too. And they see the America that they used to know, that maybe isn't the same one, the Lady Liberty with blindfolds and the scales of justice and all of these things that have been distorted. And I think they have no idea what's coming at them, because if indeed we do see the loss of the petrodollar standard,
the relationship between gold and central banks is undeniably complex. Despite debates about gold price manipulation, investors need a deep grasp of its workings. Gold's enduring appeal persists amid these discussions, solidifying its position as a global benchmark for value. Amid debates on gold's price, how can investors understand its market while recognizing its enduring global value? Share your observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.